Guys, this is
Thank you.
author Shawn McMicheal. He has a book. It's The Shadow and the Scepter, Tales of the, how do you say that?
It's mens mori, so it means the Moon Sea in Proto-European, in the Scythian language, is as close as we know, because the Scythians actually didn't actually have a written language, uh, but um, but through linguists and historical records, they believe that it would have been said, the Moon Sea, or the references would be actually Mins Mori as the
Wonderful.
actual thing. So I did a little bit of research to figure it all out, but someone has actually pieced together a language tree for them, which was interesting. But yeah, so it's a little hidden gem, a little maybe Easter egg in there, what all that means, but. Um, and Moonsea means a lot within the book itself, because a lot of the people are like, part of the Moonsea Knights, or it has a reference. But in reality, what that is what you're looking at in the behind me here is the map of the Black Sea at 600 BCE. And so I worked really closely with a lot of historical texts to actually recreate that book image, to reflect as much as possible what 650 BCE, in that time period. And those are real names of actually Greek colonies that bordered, and the names of the different indigenous people that lived around the Black Sea at that time. So, yeah,
That's pretty cool. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit about what we'll find when we open these pages.
Yeah, so what you're going to find actually is hopefully a really fun story. This is the summer of kind of, you think of Greek mythology with the Odyssey coming out. This is actually a retelling of a Greek mythology called, if you've heard of Endymion and Selene, Selene being the moon goddess, Endymion being a mortal man, or at this point in the story, in my retelling, he's a shepherd boy, that's living in Miletos, which is in Turkey, modern day Turkey, on the Aegean Sea, and he is basically through been selected by Selene to go on a quest. There is a scepter that she had that was destroyed, and multiple pieces are scattered around the land. He is sent to become a healer, and so he goes off to become a healer at various Greek schools on healing, and then eventually makes his way far north to a place called Fangoria, which, is you can see on the map up at the near Crimea. It's a small colony, and in that far northern town, Greek town, he's introduced to a whole group of people that he becomes his friends. He gets introduced to Gnarly and Orin and Tenson and a few other cast of characters that he becomes fast friends with. They're conscripted into the army and are sent off to do border patrol. There they spend a few years together, getting to know each other, and then the story starts to take a fast turn after you learn a little bit about them. They are very quickly sent on a very quest to actually find the scepter and stop basically a warlord from basically doing some bad deeds around the country. So the book starts off with, actually, when you get into it, it starts off with Vadumir is his name. He is a somebody from the Carpathian Mountains, which is in Romania, that borders the actual Moon Sea as well, or the Black Sea there. As we all probably know, historically, out of those mountains have come vampires. So actually, Vladimir is um, actually has a disease called Vecoroctus, which is a known disease that afflicts people that has the symptoms of vampirism, and so he's searching for a cure. He goes through a whole bunch of things, and then through You find out more about his story as he rises to power, and how he becomes kind of a warlord that's overseeing, and he's trying to also find this same scepter. And so, maybe not for the same purposes that Endymion has been sent on the purposes to find that scepter. And so that entails the kind of the beginning of the book and how you actually get into the story. And you really wonder, like, geez, how can you bring Greek mythology together, vampires together, dragons, giants, and all these other kind of mystical things that are all taking place around the heroic time of the Greek pantheon. So if you think of, uh, like the Odyssey, all those stories were happened before written knowledge. So you hear about all these mystical things, such as or Jason and the Argonauts, or Hercules uh, and his trials. I pull from all of that classic Greek history to bring out this story, and so that's what was really exciting for me. And I co-authored this with my best friend Tim Manley of 40 years. So we decided he's actually a much more prolific writer than I was. So he wrote. He's a sci-fi novelist, and so he's written several books prior. I had this idea for a fantasy story, so we came together and started writing this several years ago. So this is the outcome of it.
Love that. Trish says she's added it to her TBR and followed on Goodreads. I love that. Thank you, Jewel, by the way, for the compliment. I appreciate that as well. I saw that. I just want to let, and I didn't want to let that with that slide. Julia is saying it's such a great story. So, Julia, I think must have read it. Now, this is book one. How many in the series are we going to be expecting?
So we expect that there will probably be three in this series. So we got two more. We are about, I would say, about 40,000 words currently into the second book at this point. It's fully outlined, and we're working towards writing it. I think my goal in working with Tim, I think we'd like to have a final draft done before the end of the year, and then go into editing and be ready to launch probably March next year is our hope to have the second book out. So, and then it'll follow up with a third one. We think that's how long the story is. But as it says Tales of Mins Mori. So we have a lot of other ideas and spin-offs, and maybe where some of these main characters actually have other stories, or different times around the Moonsea area. There's a lot of interesting things we've been talking about to do, but I think a lot of it is, I'm trying to create a world where, as you bring readers in, there can be a really sense of feeling like, oh, this is a very interesting time, because you have to think of this time period. The Greeks were actually colonists in a lot of these other foreign lands, and they brought technology, they brought trade. They would work with the locals to grow, to actually grow figs and fruit and so forth. And so they became it became a real cultural exchange at the time between all these different cultures. And so that's what really fascinated me about this space and time. And so I thought it was such a great backdrop. And not many fantasy writers have actually at all, from a historical fantasy perspective, written about this time period or these people in this setting. So, at least in my knowledge and looking around. So, I thought it was actually really unique and really fresh, fertile ground to do a lot of fun stuff in.
So that would be your inspiration. It was like you looked around and you saw like there's not enough in this space. I need to fill it.
Yeah, and I think that there are stories that aren't really told about a lot of the really interesting cultures that happened, and like the Scythian culture, which is kind of a nomadic horse tribe culture that, at its time, at the beginning of this story, you find out is probably one of the largest empires the world has ever seen at that point, and it stretched all the way from the steppes of China, through the grasslands, all the way through and down to Babylon and into Turkey, and into Iran at that point. So it had this massive culture and a massive people that have a huge influence on that part of the world. And so I get to write about them and write about their culture and write about how their interactions with the Greeks and so forth. So it really inspired me because I come from a historical background where I've been a teacher previously, as well as I've just done a lot of study in this area of history. So
I was gonna say, you sound like you've done the research for sure.
yeah, I mean that's the I think I had a passion from it in college when I started. I had a minor in history, so I studied a lot of ancient. I studied the Iliad and Odyssey in multiple classes. Actually took a full year of ancient texts, so that was kind of fun. So that got me started just many years ago about reading this, and then there's a lot of great books that have been written on. Obviously, there's a lot of Greek fantasy that if you dig into, right, that is beyond a lot of more classical artists or novelists have written around the Greek experiences and so forth. So there's a lot to pull from, right? Which is good.
I love that. And then to get this, there's a schmeek in your schmio, right?
Yeah, so I think in all that Shmeek and the Smile stuff, I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can pull from. So one, I'm available up on the rainforest. I'm in KU, and so I really encourage. I'm looking for readers. I want people to just really enjoy the world, get into the world. You can see a lot of reviews on my channel. Please go check them out. See if the story's right for you. I think they do a great job. The book's getting really solid reviews, which thankfully I'm just as a new author to be offer for myself. Tim's always like, "Hey, don't sweat the reviews. Don't even look at them," and so forth. And I'm a newbie, so I'm just like, I'm sweating every review and looking at it but what I really cared about is that people found like, hey, did we have a perch to sit on? Is this something that people find interesting? Do they find that's what I loved about it, is the people who do like big fantasy worlds, like a deep and rich culture where they can sink into and really follow these characters through this. That's what was really exciting to see with the reviews coming back and on Amazon, and with a 4.7 on Amazon right now, 50
Dawn,
plus review.
don't say the whole word.
Sorry, on the rainforest. On the rainforest or GR. It's been nice to see really good reviews. So,
Yeah, TT
thanks.
has a lot of rules, so we got to be really
Yeah, and I love
careful.
TT, and TT is awesome, and
We
I
love the
hope to
TikTok
be
shop.
available. Yeah, we love that, and uh, so that's exactly. So definitely check that out. The other things to just be aware of is that the book also has a lot of each chapter actually has unique art in it, and so if you look at it at the beginning of each chapter page, you will find that there's unique art on each page. What I'm going to do for the first probably 100 printed books that are actually sold, if you and you do a review um, on one of those sites over the either there or BNN or wherever, and just drop me a note. I'm going to be sending out fan art to everybody who does that for me, and so I'll send out a packet. What I've done is I've created um, basically colored versions of, I don't know if that shows you, like
Oh
of the
wow, that's
different.
beautiful.
So I've done color versions of the different fan art that's available, and so I will. If you tell me, hey, my favorite character or my favorite fan art, my favorite art is this, I will. Hopefully, that'll show up there.
There it is.
Um, I will. I'll definitely send that to you, and then I also have. So I have basically 23 of those for you to pick from, as well as I have individual bookmarks as well for. So if you say, hey, my favorite character, here's Gnarly as an example. I don't know if I can show that. It shows
Yeah,
up
you
good
got
there.
it.
There you go. Or let's say, oh, I really like OB, which is this tall, strapping mag fellow here. Or, there's also Oren, who is a great character that you'll find more out about in the book, who's kind of a witty, halfling-like fellow. Um, and then, or Vanoran, who is, a very, very elvish-like character who's a kind of a bardish type fellow. So, and the list goes on, right? And there's a Demian, and there's the protagonist. There is a little bit of so you can get that artwork just as part of the offering as well. Just some common tropes that you'll see throughout the book. You're going to see things like fast fam, kind of people becoming found family. You're going to find there is battle scenes. There are dragons that are prevalent in the book and fights with dragons. There are celestial magic. It does have a magic system that's in the book as well, and so you'll learn more about that and how that takes place. And so the book is rich with a lot of the traditional, things that people like in these epic fantasy elements. It is dark fantasy in the sense that I do have a vampire warlord at the beginning of the book that they are fighting, and he is not always the kindest, and so it does put a kind of a dark pale onto the overall story. But it is really a classic fantasy, story that touches on a kind of a big MacGuffin. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but
No, I'm not, but then you're
yeah.
teaching
So there's
me.
this idea of a MacGuffin run where people are like, hey, you have a big quest that you go on, and so that's kind of the classic trope that a lot of people love, and so that plays out very well in the story as well. So.
Julia says there's some side romance in it too.
Well, there is a little slow burn going on, so there is a little slow burn romance. It'll get bigger over time throughout the book. I think there's a budding romance. I think that will continue to grow, which I think is natural in these stories as well. You got young adults; they eventually, you know, get curious.
I love that. I love that. So who are you reading right now?
Myself, I am in the middle of. I've read some indie authors, so I just finished up Unbroken Crown, which is really good indie book about the prose were amazing on it. It is a kind of an epic fantasy that I was reading, and then I'm also reading The Devil with Joe Abercrombie. So.
Very,
I'm
very
reading
cool.
that as well. So those are two. Those are definitely two of the things. Oh, look at that! I got a little.
You got a coffee. You got a smile
Yeah,
latte.
yeah. There you go. Perfect.
I love that. And then what did you grow up reading? What was the books that like inspired you as a child?
Um, Actually, I didn't. I would say I grew up reading a lot more. I grew up reading some westerns. Actually, I was really into a lot of the western stuff. A lot. I like thrillers as well. Um, And then I have a very wide reading selection. I read a lot of so those are initial ones. I think my first fantasy novel was Sword of Shannara. So those were probably my first set of fantasy books. And then I got pulled into a lot of Terry Pratchett and um, you know and then obviously J.R. Tolkien on the fantasy side. Um, but I also read a lot of historical fantasy. I love Michener. I love Bernard Cromwell. I love the whole Outlander series.
Oh, I love
Planet of the
Outlander.
Cave Bear. You think about early romantasy. I mean, Outlander's kind of been around for a long time, right?
And she's
And
still
I just
writing.
watched the
She's
final,
not
so I was
done.
really excited for actually. Uh,
I haven't watched this season. I need to catch up. I'm behind, which is the
Yeah, I
last
totally
season.
look. I totally recommend it. I think they did a good job. I mean, I think
I did
everyone
catch
can
up.
have a point of view on it. I just think,
I
you
liked that
think
they
about.
took three of the books and made it one season because those three books for me, those were like the three that I struggled with. I was like, oh
Yeah,
God. And I was like, okay, good. They took all of that and put it all together because that was
yeah,
hard.
they really they tried to do their best to put, kind of put a big bow on it, and I think it felt good. I think, I, as a, read all of the series, and my mom's a big reader of it too. So I was actually visiting her, and we got to watch the finale together. So
Oh,
that
that's
was something.
awesome.
And my book's dedicated to my mom.
I saw that.
And that was mostly because, she was a voracious reader growing up, and I grew up as I was dyslexic growing up, so I had a really hard time learning to read. But she really, didn't give up on me. So I think, that what drove me into doing a lot of reading. So yeah,
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And then what's been your biggest struggle so far as an author?
I think, I think the big thing is, two elements. I think is, for me myself is, knowing, like, I have so much I want to be able to say about the world or the world history, and being really thoughtful about the reader only needs to know what they need to know at that moment. You don't need to overtell them. They need to discover that through the story. And I think that's been that through the editing process. I've probably edited this book, first time through, probably about 5 different times. So, and a lot of it was to continue to really be true to having people, not telling people about the story, right? Having them read through it and be able to experience it, right? And so have the characters, tell about the world, have them experience the world. And so that's been a big growth area for me. And I think that's been one of the big areas that I've really learned as an author. And I think I've really grown. Um, so that's been helpful. Um, I'm also learning a lot about dialogue. So Tim's a really strong dialogue writer, and so I've enjoyed working with him and figuring out how to do that in a really, great way. So, we've continued to say, look, we'll co-author the rest of this series together, but then I'll probably branch out and do my own stuff as well, on some other series. So it's pretty exciting. I'm learning a lot, and that's probably been the biggest struggle, I would say. The only other struggle I think as, indie authors that we all have is, you know, all this stuff is new to us, right? Like, I come from a marketing background at least, but, so some of the marketing stuff's a little bit easier for me to understand, but the whole publishing industry is so different than where I've come from. And so having to learn all that, and then learning how to promote your book, and then how to actually get out and do all this, and deciding to go the indie route versus a traditional route, those were all big things to figure out. And so that's been a big learning curve. So
I love that. When you're writing, is it quiet or are you listening to music?
I usually listen to music. Actually, I like to turn on something that's, more very rhythmic, almost. Um, so I do like some kind of, rhythmic music that's going on in the background. This allows me to just kind of to lose myself in my thoughts a little bit. And so,
I like
it could be Gregorian chants, it could be, Russian, folk music. Frankly, it could be all kinds of interesting, just rhythmic music. Usually not a lot of. I can't have any, singing or, kind of voices in it, because that's distracting. But anything, harmonic is really good. And so,
what snack or drink is getting you through your writing as well.
um, I'm actually a Celsius drinker. Probably what I'm drinking these days, mostly, from a caffeine perspective. I'm usually a coffee drinker until, you know, about mid afternoon, and then I switch over. So.
I love it. All right, guys. Do you have any questions for Shawn in the chat? Make sure you're putting them in there. Daniel usually comes in here with the most absurd questions, and he's not here, so I don't know what to do with it. He'll come in and be like, "What's the shoe size of your main character?"
Yeah.
Because he likes to see how much an author really develops the character. So he gets into
Yeah,
it.
it's really it's interesting. Like Endymion, he's a he isn't the biggest guy, so he's probably only he's probably 5'8" to 5'10", probably 170 pounds. So he's probably strolling around on size 8s, size 9s. So I would think.
I'll have to let him know that I asked it first so he
Yeah.
can know. Like size 8, size 9. The other day, someone he got the question confused. The author confused the question with a different size, so that was different. And that conversation took a total left hand turn.
That's
But
awesome.
that's good. All right. Well, guys, his book is The Shadow and the Scepter. It's the tales of the Means Mori, right?
Means more. Yep. Tales of Means
Means
more.
Mori.
Yep.
This book one. Go to the Schmink in his Schmile to get it if you haven't already gone and checked it out. It is available on the Forbidden Forest. You can find it on GR. Is it on BNN as well?
It is on BNN. Yep. It is
Okay.
available as
So
well.
it's where books are sold, guys. So
Yeah.
guys, go check it out. It sounds so good. It's I would say it's almost high fantasy, yes?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely on the high. Well, there's so many definitions, but it's based in this world, so I think that in that way, it's not too high fantasy in the sense of you're not. It's not a 100% created world, but it takes a lot of license on the fantasy side, on the history side. So it's historical fantasy. So
Historical
for
fantasy.
sure.
And that's what's so good about being an indie author. Because if you went trad publishing, would they say, "Oh, historical fantasy, we got that"? No, they would be like, "You got to." They don't like it when you mesh the genres too much in the trad world.
Yeah, you're so right about that. I mean, they really want to be able to put you in a pinhole you, right?
Yeah,
So
your
um,
square hole, your square peg goes in the square pole. And God forbid you have a circle, and they're like, "We can't fit you." And
yeah,
so
exactly, right.
I think that's what's the beauty of being an indie author. As much as it's harder,
Yep.
you're able to be creative.
Yeah, so definitely. And I hope anybody listening, go check it out, right? See if it's for you. I'd love for you to go in and, read it. Get to know the world, get to know the characters. We're going to be doing this for many years ahead and just really want to be able to tell fun stories. And so that's really the idea of it all. And I'm having a good time. As long as I'm doing that, I'll continue to put out the books and so forth. And
And that's
I
what's
appreciate
important.
you guys as well. So I appreciate AJ for all your work, all your help, and always promoting me. And it's been wonderful. So
I love that. And yeah, again, as long as you're having fun, that's what's important. If you're not having fun, then why are you doing it?
yeah, right, exactly.
Exactly. Guys, go check him out. Schminks in the Schmio. Make sure you picked him up and you followed him. Help him out, guys. Go to his content, push him stuff if you can. He's definitely it's his first book, so go do the things. Shawn, when you have your second book, when it's ready to come out, make sure you're reaching out to us so we can have you back on.
Thank you so much. I will definitely do that, and appreciate it. Enjoy your Sunday.
You too. Thank you.
Bye bye.